meeting of the City of Joliet with Bob Odenkirk presiding, and invocation will be given by Councilwoman Betty Gavin, after which we will be led in the pledge to the flag.
Thank you, sir. You'll all stand with me. Father God, we come before you just as humble as we could be this evening, sir. We come before you thanking you for all of your blessings and all of your protection, Lord. Father, we come before you because of who you are. Father God, we lift up our first responders and our healthcare workers who are on the front line right now, sir. We ask that you continue to give them your divine protection, Lord, as we go through this COVID-19 pandemic. Father, we lift up the families of those who have lost their loved ones. Father, those who are in the hospital where their families are awaiting their speedy recovery, we ask you, sir, to send your spirit. Bless them, lift them, Lord, and protect them. Father, I come before you also tonight, lifting up these elected officials, Father, whom you have chosen to lead this city. Father, we ask you for divine wisdom. We know that our steps are ordered in you, Lord, and we just give you thanks and praise for that this evening. To the residents of this city, Father, we ask you to protect them, Lord. Keep us as we look forward to the ending of this pandemic. We know that all things work together for those who are called according to your purpose, Lord. So we thank you for that. We ask, Father, in the mighty, majestic, magnificent name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor, if you would allow me, before we start meeting, I'll make a suggestion. Sure. We're good to go now?
We're going to do roll call.
Let's begin with roll call. Mayor Odenkirk.
Here.
Councilman Dickinson.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin.
here.
Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
Councilman Turk.
Here.
Next to
Mayor, what I might suggest, if the council would be in agreement to do it, I would like a report on our current state of finances from Jim Gadati, because there's a number of items on our agenda, both some that might be debated as critical, and those being more a matter of what's the word I'm looking for, discretionary. And I think people, if they don't know already, they really need to know where we're at, what the reality of our finances are, and what the prediction of our finances are between now and September.
Yeah, I knew we were going to hear from tonight.
Right, and that's going to happen. Actually, I saw Jim wander, so he is behind the reporter. There he is. We were going to talk about it as we hit a couple of these items, and then in my report, I was going to do somewhat of an overview, talking about some planning and some timing issues.
You talking about your report at the end of the meeting?
I'm sorry?
Your manager's, city manager's
Correct.
report? No, we got to vote on whether we're going to spend this money. We need to know what situation we're in.
Right, as I said, as we hit some of these items, I'm going to give a little bit of an overview. If there are things that come up that I'm not doing an overview on the financial side, certainly you could raise those issues and we can talk about it.
Wouldn't it be so much easier to have Jim come in and give a presentation?
It would be, or we could pass these items to later in the meeting. Because I know there's trucks, there's a roof repair.
Yeah, that's,
I think the council needs to hear what I've heard about our finances, about how much money we're losing. So we can do that right now or later in the meeting if you want. But I think before we take those votes, they should have an accurate picture of where we're at right now.
Certainly up to you, Mayor. I mean, either way, I was going to do it the other way, if you feel it would be better, more comprehensive.
Does anyone have,
No.
no? Why don't we bring them in then, if you don't mind?
We'll have to lose you, Krista,
That's
sorry.
fine.
Jim Gadati, can you come in, please?
I could start out, and then Jim could sort of jump in, and once we get done between the two of us, we could certainly open it up for questions. As everyone knows, based on my weekly reports and, what you're obviously hearing just in terms of other municipalities, the COVID crisis certainly has more impact than just health issues. A few of us, Jim and I included, were managing organizations back when the 2008 financial crisis happened. And there's some similarities to what's happening, and there's some big differences. The biggest difference is the fact that in 2008, when we went into a decline, it was a relatively slow decline. It was over a number of years. It was something that the initial emotional shock led to people doing things differently with spending patterns and stores, and obviously foreclosures were happening. This is like a light switch. I mean, this literally is a instance where everything gets shut off. And to give you a little bit of an overview of how Joliet's finances are set up, we have a lot of diversity, but unfortunately about half of that revenue source, even though it's diverse, is related to what people spend and how they spend. Gaming taxes. For every month that the casinos are shut down, we're losing about $1.4 million of total revenue. Sales tax, hard to judge right now because obviously the data lags several months, but significant reduction in sales tax. Food and beverage, we are having restaurants sell food at curbside and delivery, but certainly I think what we were once experiencing is a trickle. Hotel motel tax, significant reduction. Local gas tax, significant reduction. And something we won't see for a few months, but we're hearing enough about at the state level to know there's going to be an impact, is income tax. All of the state income tax goes into a pot. There is an allocation that goes to municipalities based upon per capita. Obviously, as unemployment numbers jump from week to week to week, there's going to be a point when that's going to slow down to a trickle. And even if the light switch was to suddenly get switched on, let's say on June 15th and everything's back open, we're hearing that there are attempts being made by the state to perhaps delay some of the payments of those revenues that they collect and then submit to municipalities because of their financial situation. So, we're in a situation where Jim and I have been talking pretty much daily over the last 2 weeks to try to gauge where we will be with the cash flow analysis. I'm starting to get some preliminary numbers with regard to the impact, and we're going to have some hard decisions that are going to have to be made. We started this budget year with a balanced budget. Every nickel that now falls below in the revenues has to be offset with expense reductions, or we're into another deficit year. So that's sort of the overview. What would you add to that, Mr. Gadati?
Since the crisis has began, the finance department has tracking our cash flow and our cash balances on a daily basis. Since March 16th is when the governor first closed the restaurants, if you remember. And then that Wednesday, we went into full closure. Since then, we have used about $7 million of cash above what we're receiving. To look at it on a yearly basis, last year between payroll and accounts payable, which is our vendors, we spent about $20 million a month. That was covered basically by our revenues. Right now, the food and beverage tax, we took in about $270,000 a month. We have not gotten any data yet. Our first food and beverage from March is due by the end of April. So I will have a better feel about how much the food and beverage is lost. The hotel mo tax is about $220,000 a month. I believe that we'll just get a fraction of that. From what I hear from the hotel owners, many of them are down 70 to 80%. The automobile rental tax, casino revenue tax. The automobile rental tax is really dried up, but it's not a lot, only about $4,000 a month. The casino tax, last year, we got about 1.38 million a month. We will not get any of that. The casinos are closed. The video gaming tax, again, I'll have to wait till the end of the month. It's about 80 grand a month we get. But with the bars and the video games, 90% of them are closed. A few of them are still open, the ones that are in truck stops, for example. Those are still open, but I would expect that to be zero also. On top of that is the sales tax. We take about $24 million in sales tax a year. About 2.2 million for the home rule and 1.9 for the state sales tax. The state controller, Susan Mendoza, has told us that they expect our payments to be slowed up for about 2 months. I've not gotten anything official on that, but that'll be 2 more months that we'll have to wait to receive our revenue. So based on that, we're going to lose anywhere from $8 to $10 million a month. We have about $70 million in the bank. So my preliminary predictions are we will be out of money in October or November.
Assuming that we're still in a shutdown mode.
Assuming we're still in a shutdown.
Correct. And one of the, yes,
That's an
thank you.
important thing. And as Steve pointed out, the biggest difference between this and any other situation I've had in my career is there was a beginning and an end. And there's nobody out there or any health person who can tell us when is this going to end. But quite frankly, we can't wait till all the money's gone and then do something. I think we're going to have to start getting proactive and start and cut unnecessary expenditures. My recommendation is a hiring freeze, not take on any new projects that haven't already started, and meet with the city manager and the council and see where we can slow down our expenditures so we're only providing essential services.
And along those lines, I know I talked earlier with you, Steve, I think what we need to do, because we're bleeding money right now with no revenue coming in, I'd like to do another meeting next week. We'll figure out what day. And Mike Turk, either this would be a finance committee meeting that probably we all would attend, or just a council meeting where would you be able to put forward recommendations and some type of plan between now and next Tuesday, next Wednesday? Would that be possible?
Yeah, well, we can make recommendations. Again, it's a policy decision among council and senior management. I only have right now less than a month of data. Again, I don't think when we go back to business, it's going to be business as usual. So we can make recommendations, and together we'll have to figure out a plan.
So I would, again, if someone wants to chime in if you don't agree, but I'd like to come back, hear the plan, give us a couple days to think about it, and then the next round of council meetings, start taking action, whatever it is that we need to execute. But I certainly think it's something that needs to sink in for some people. Exactly.
I have a question.
Sure.
Jim, can you elaborate on the $70 million in the bank?
Larry, make sure you talk in your mic.
Can you elaborate on the $70 million in the bank? You know, my understanding would be from general fund, about 50 or 54 million is the reserve. What's the rest of the money?
About half of it is the general fund and half of it is the water fund.
So the water fund, if it's used for anything but water and sewer, would have to be paid back. It's just a temporary
Correct,
stopgap.
correct.
It's giving ourselves a
It
loan.
would be a interfund loan if we would have to go that way, and it would have to be paid back. It would come out of our investment pool. We pool all of our cash to enhance our return on money. And that money, if we would have to go there, could be used. I would advise against it, but it could be used if we needed to a cash bridge, let's say. A lot depends on what's going to happen in May. As I told Steve, 2 weeks from tonight, I'll have a PowerPoint and I'll have a full month of cash flow where I can make a formal presentation to the council. And a lot of it's, budgeting. I don't want to say it's guessing, but it's educated guessing, trying to look forward and see at what point are we going to have to make some very, very hard choices.
And from the general fund perspective, Jim, what is the unassigned fund balance? What is the
Our
reserve?
unassigned fund balance, it's about 40-some million, 42 is the last I seen, and about half that is cash.
And of the 42 million, or whatever it may be, is all already deducting the 7 million we've already spent.
No,
You
you'd
said
have
we
to
spent
take
7 million
that, you'd
cash.
have to take that 7 million from that 42 million, so, our goal would, be, we have about 20%, undesignated fund balance. I would not recommend going below 10%. Try to preserve by the end of the year half of our fund balance. But it's gonna take some, hard decisions.
Well, and Mayor, one thing I would suggest, and maybe at the meeting that you're calling for next week, a financial, emergency financial meeting, legal needs to tell us, because we have a ordinance or resolution on the books requiring a minimum amount in reserve. We can certainly suspend that temporarily in an emergency, that's what it's there for. But we have to bear in mind and be cognitive that whatever we spend, that brings us below that amount. I think, is it 30, 20, 25 million? You remember? You remember the ordinance, right?
Was it 10% of the fund
Well,
balance?
I don't believe that's an ordinance, I believe it's an internal policy that we have set.
I thought there was an ordinance that was passed when Tom Thanis was the
Yeah.
city manager. After 2008, I think we passed an
We
ordinance.
can look into that.
Yeah. The other big question is, because I know there's cities in worse shape than we are. What, if any, is going to be the federal or I don't know, state buyout or bailout's going to apply? But the bill that was passed by Congress did allocate money to cities of over 500,000 people or more. Those cities can go directly to the federal government to get money. We can't do that. So we're gonna have to go through Governor Pritzker in the state of Illinois. Have we gotten any feedback, because I haven't, of what that process is going to be or what kind of money's available? Every city, presumably most cities in Illinois are going through the same problem that we're facing.
I have not received any official word how much the state of Illinois is gonna get, and the other thing is, what I have heard is that it would be divided among population, based on population, like the income tax is. I've been following that, as probably all of us have. I get emails every day, probably so many that it's ad nauseum, but the actual amount that's coming to the state of Illinois to be divided up, I have not gotten a hard number yet.
Any questions? Yes.
Just the one comment, really, Jim, and I thank you for all the hard work that you're doing and your department. I believe I heard you say in about 2 weeks you would have a full report that will add in April, take us all the way up to April. Is
Well,
I mean-
I will have a full month of cash flow.
of cash, okay.
So,
Yeah.
we are tracking our revenues and our expenditures, per day, every day. Tammy, my accountant, Christine, my assistant, myself, look at, what we have in the bank, what we have invested, and how the cash is flowing. But we are spending more than we're gonna take in.
Exactly, and having said that, we know that we've got to tighten our belts. We have got to do that. And so, Mayor, to your question about meeting maybe next week, I'm wondering if we will have more information in about another week after that, or will that be too late? We burn, what, 7 million
Every 2 weeks.
every 2 weeks, so,
Well, it's 16 days, 6.99 million, 7 million.
7 million,
Been
okay.
through since the announcement on the 16th.
Okay, so I was just asking, maybe if not next week, we get better information or more information in the week
The only
after.
problem with that, and I don't know if there'd be an agenda item with this, but if there is, then we can't vote on it without another special meeting or waiting 2 weeks. I don't know if there's anything we're gonna need to vote on or not. But if we're presented something next week, it could be on the agenda by Thursday, it's something we can address at the next council meeting. That was my thinking.
And Mayor, what I would suggest tonight, we got a number of items, and we can call them discretionary, there are some. We have to look at each item, and even the ones that are awarded contracts. We don't want to repeat 2008. We have to look at it with a critical mind and a critical eye. I don't think we should be approving anything tonight that's not essential or critical. I don't think, if someone were to tell me on an item that I might oppose, saying, well, the state's gonna pay for it. Really? We don't know, they're already talking about withholding or delaying, right? We have to be very careful on what we spend tonight. I want everybody to be cognizant of that.
I guess I'll go around the room.
Absolutely.
Is it worth meeting next week, or are we just gonna be spinning our wheels for another week?
It's going to be dependent upon the data. I mean, we've already started conceptualizing some issues, going through, high-level budget ideas, have not yet met with the departments because, in effect, the number of what we're trying to achieve is going to be very important. It's going to drive it. Once we know what Jim's number is, the question is it a rosy number? Is it an overestimation, or is it somewhere in the middle? And part of that deals with the fact that when's this going to be over? And of course, there's no one in this room that can answer that question. So I think we have to be very cautious and really look at this as being worse than perhaps what it might be. So we're not undercutting our ability to grapple with this.
I got the same impression as Betty. I'm willing to do whatever we need to do. So I'll come in however many times we need to. But I got the same impression that you felt like you weren't going to have you would have a better view in a couple weeks, or would it be a good thing to come in next week just to get a preliminary look at it?
We're gonna be losing a lot of money. The sooner we can cut, the better.
So next
So
week
if
is
you are able and want to meet next week, then we can get some direction from council. And some of the things, council can just give us direction and say, okay, do this. Other things, it may take a vote. Steve and I have verbally talked about a lot of stuff, but again, it's our decision, not my decision, not Steve's. It's the council sets the policy and we administer the policy. If we do nothing, we're gonna run out of money.
Yeah,
I
that's for
can't
sure.
make it more simple than that. How much we're losing, that's what I can focus on in 2 weeks and make a formal presentation and tell you what happened over the last month. Budgeting is always predicted on what happened in the past. And unfortunately, the past will have no bearing on what's going on in the future. Some of just the casino money, for example, 1.3 million a month, that's significant. So the sooner we can cut expenditures, the better off we will be in the long run. Again, when it comes to saving, you don't wait until you're out. If you wait until you're out of toilet paper, you're not going to have toilet paper. So you have to start conserving when you have some in the cabinet.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's my advice. The sooner, the better. It's not gonna get better in 2 weeks. I will be able to give you more data,
Okay.
but will that play out in the future? Typically, our state deposits are made around the 14th or the 15th of the month. I may not even know those numbers because the state is saying they're going to delay payments to cities. I guess all of you can guess why they're gonna delay our money. They collect our money. We pay them to collect it and give it to us, but they're gonna keep it.
Yeah.
So, Mayor, our next meeting would not be till April 21st. So I personally agree, I think it's too long to wait. But at any time, we could call an emergency meeting.
We can't, I was gonna bring it up tonight and make sure that the council was in agreement. And I didn't know if the proper forum would be in this manner or a finance committee meeting. I don't know if it really matters, because I think we're all gonna be here. But I guess it's just whoever's gonna run the meeting then.
Mayor, I might suggest a committee at large, because if you go committee, this traditional committee, that means having them meet and then having another meeting sometime after that for everybody else.
Yeah, if there's agenda items, I want them on that 21st.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got,
I'm just
Agenda.
talking about our finances. We need to get a handle on this now.
I'm saying if we have to vote on something, that we should be ready to vote by
Yeah.
the 21st and not have to wait after that.
No.
And I think tonight, Mayor, that we should consider looking at it, like I've said before, not to be redundant, critical and essential only tonight.
Well, yeah.
You know, because if we say no to things, even contracts that have been, that can be awarded tonight, in 2 weeks, Mr. Gadati can tell us, had you passed those $4 million, we'd be 12 million in the hole. My understanding is right now, we are losing 7 million every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
so 14 million a month.
7 million, 16 days, a little over 2
every
weeks.
16 days.
Maybe 12 million a month, I guess, without getting my calculator out. 12 million a
Closer to
month.
14,
We gotta
right?
stop the
Closer to
spending now
14.
as a proactive
Remember,
measure.
those are working days too, so.
Right. We gotta stop it now as a proactive measure. We can't wait even a week to stop spending. We need to be really proactive tonight.
Yep.
So, if I understood you, Mayor, that,
Yeah, Mike.
sorry, we need to get something on the agenda for the 21st. We need to meet before next Thursday, so I'm more than agreeable that we meet next Tuesday or Wednesday, if everybody can do it.
Exactly, I
or the
have no
majority
problem
can
with
do it.
that either. I just wanted to know if we had all the information, and I think that we will. We're looking at it, so yeah, I have no problem with coming in and meeting, whatever.
What
I
about
would
Mike and
suggest
Doug?
Tuesday, because if you have something that's due Thursday, we would need a day to prepare that, so.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion. Of course, if you set the meeting, I will be here.
And Mayor,
Yes.
one last thought. You know, we've kind of concentrated, everybody's mentioned it, including myself. We don't know when, as Steve put it, the switch we turn back on for as far as the shelter at home and the shutdown, as we call it, right? That's only step one. This is gonna have horrendous effects on our economy for a lot longer than when we put that light back on. This is what we've got to plan for, the next 2 years.
You know, Mayor, if I may,
Yep.
we have not even hit our peak yet here. And another 2 weeks will be all telling. And that's when it's really gonna hit, like it hit New York and hit Michigan. People said, oh, no, we're doing this, but I'm telling you, we're in for it right now. And,
These are critical times.
that's the critical point right there, and then who knows how long that will last here. We could get even more. So whatever we need to do as an emergency council to stop the leak, if you will, right now, because we need to do something.
Agreed.
And we can't predict the future, but this virus is not over by any means.
I would certainly entertain the concept of putting a freeze on hiring or a moratorium on non-essential, non-critical spending. Get ahead of the curve on this. You know, we should be looking at keeping our spending as minimal as possible because we are going blindly through this storm and looking at best ways to bring new revenues in. That's what we should be approving, new revenues.
I agree. You know, and obviously keep an eye on what happens in other cities. I will say, without divulging who, other units of local government have called me looking for help. They're going out of business a lot quicker than September, October. So I don't know there's enough federal money to go around. So, yeah, this is something that's gonna hit everybody.
I had heard that Oak Brook are closing on Thursdays, 20% cut. I haven't read exactly what that means for the employees. You've probably heard that Aurora came out and said they're in a very similar situation than us. So,
Which is, no offense to Aurora, but it's good news. We're the second and third biggest cities, so we're kind of in the same boat. Timeline-wise, everyone's in this boat, but timeline-wise. So we should get a pretty good indication, I would hope, in the next few weeks about what kind of aid is coming to the cities.
again, I would beg the federal government to pass a bailout law for us. I mean, over 500,000, fine, but what about the medium cities and a lot of the smaller cities? So I had heard that there's a third stimulus package, but I don't know what would be in that at this point.
All right, I think we're good then. Thank you, Jim.
I hope you're not all too depressed.
Mayor, thank you for indulging me.
That's fine.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yep.
Second, just to get this. So next is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is citizens to be heard on agenda items. We did have 2 individuals sign up to speak this evening.
You'll punch him through? So just so we're giving everyone an outline, they signed up to speak on the city website. Our staff is calling them right now. I know Marty Shanahan laid down the rules, but there'll be the same public speaking if you can keep time, please. Once we get them on the line and they're ready to go. This is Mayor Odeker. Can you give your name and your address and make your comment, please?
Yeah, my name is Dan Condon. I'm representing Pearltown Properties on memo item 194T0 regarding 833, 835 Broadway Street in Joliet. It is a property we've had since 1987. It is a 2-unit apartment building and a single-family home in one tin. And we are looking to get it rezoned into R3 zoning.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
And I was just notified that the second individual did not answer
You're
the
welcome.
call.
Okay. We'll move on then.
So that concludes the citizens to be heard on agenda items this evening. Next is council committee reports. We have none. Moving on to consent agenda. First is approval of the council meeting minutes for March 17, 2020. It's recommended the minutes of the council meeting held on March 17, 2020 stand approved as recorded. Council Memo 188-20, request for authorization to delay publication of the citywide newsletter for 2020-2021.
And I'll jump in here, Mr. Mayor, since this is a combined meeting, there are probably a few things where I could give some background. Per our contract with our vendor who does the printing of our newsletter, we have the ability to stop printing, but it does require council action. So for a couple reasons, one being finance, the other being the fact that in this current era, 3 months is an eternity in terms of events or some of the calendar items that we've typically done. It would be pretty worthless for us to do a newsletter, just because we're using social media, we're using website, we're using our own media to really convey those things that we have control over. But we figured let's just wait a while till we got a better handle on where things are. Perhaps we can do an out-of-cycle newsletter at some point in the future, which would be more meaningful for the residents. So we have to take this action to literally tell the vendor that this is something that we'll forego.
Question?
Yes.
Will we get a credit, or how will that work?
We won't pay for that particular
And they
edition.
won't penalize us or anything? Oh,
No,
okay.
and if you add, I should have mentioned, if you add the actual printing plus the postage, it's about $20,000 for a single edition.
Okay, yeah, good idea.
Question?
Yes.
And this goes along with what I've already said, essential and critical only. But when you refer to social media, online and so forth that we're doing, what about the seniors in the community? How will we bridge that lack of communication that many may have come to depend on?
Well, in effect, it's not going to be as complete as it would have been. We do utilize
Channel 6.
In our local press, you know, you can't say that everyone reads the newspaper, you can't say everyone reads Patch, you can't say that everyone, you know, watches cable. There are always going to be a number of folks that we just don't reach. There are also a number of people probably that just throw the newsletter in the trash and never read that as well. So we're not going to be at 100%, no doubt.
Listen to the radio, WJOL.
Yeah, I've done, I think, 4 press conferences, or maybe 5. We did a video statement, too, in the last couple of weeks. And I know WJOL has recorded and replayed some of them, and they're being reported in the local media. They're being live streamed on Facebook and also on the city website. So we're doing what we can to get information out.
Next is Council Memo 189-20, which is the annual city collectors report. It's recommended this report be received and placed on file. Is there a motion to approve said consent agenda items?
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on, under public hearings this evening. First is Council Memo 191-20, ordinances and a resolution associated with the annexation of 21001 Rock Run Drive. This includes an ordinance approving the annexation of 1.296 acres located at 21001 Rock Run Drive, an ordinance approving the classification of 1.296 acres located at 21001 Rock Run Drive to R1 Single Family Residential Zoning, and a resolution approving the annexation agreement. This is a public hearing, so comments would be in order at this time.
The public hearing is open. Did anyone call in or
No one
email?
registered to speak on this or emailed to express their comments.
Okay.
So let the record show the hearing is now closed. Staff is recommending approval of Council Memo 191-20, which is ordinances and a resolution associated with the annexation of 21001 Rock Run Drive.
Question, Mayor?
Yes.
This is a single parcel annexation, so are everything and all of the expenses going to be carried by the petitioner?
Steve?
There's no city cost associated with this.
Thank you.
And I should note that the petitioner did email us saying he was available if we had questions for him specifically.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Hug.
Aye?
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on, under public hearings is Council Memo 192-20, pre-annexation agreement for 1,260 acres with Eastgate Logistics Park, Chicago LLC for Compass Business Park. So once again, it is being recommended this be tabled to a later date, but this is a public hearing, so we need to open it at this time.
All right, the public hearing is open. Did anyone sign up to talk about this?
No, because we did note that it would be continued.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could throw a little history here. This is another one of those things where time suddenly appears to be a lot different. It's kind of hard to believe that this thing was originally scheduled for public hearing March 17th, which seems like a year ago practically. But as everyone will recall, when we had put this on the agenda, it was right before the first COVID-19 onset began. And the council at that point in time made the decision that because of the fact that this is very likely to bring a good number of folks out, both pro and con, that it was in everyone's best interest to delay it. So at that point in time, the council rescheduled this to April 7th. And at the time, there was, some CDC recommendations about gatherings of, I think, 250 or maybe it was even 100 people at that time. But after we rescheduled it, on March 20th, the governor implemented his shelter-in-place order that at that time was to expire on April 7th, which was the same day of the rescheduled public hearing. Obviously, we had concerns about that. Just informally, council certainly didn't want to, proceed with a public hearing at that point in time. So we started to look at the possibility of rescheduling once again. Well, it turns out on March 31st, the governor's order was extended to April 30th, which of course now passes the 7th, and we're kind of in a holding pattern. The good thing is that based upon what the governor has done with regard to his directives about allowing business to continue in governmental bodies, business as usual, we've put together some workarounds, which we're actually using tonight in terms of public comment, in terms of people being able to communicate from remote locations. So we put these rules together ourselves based on guidance from the governor. Illinois Attorney General has vetted them and said that what we're doing is consistent with what the act is. It's my recommendation that perhaps we look at having a special meeting to have this public hearing at some point in the future. One of the reasons is that with some of these extensions of the social distancing and some of the issues we're seeing with COVID, I mean, can we really say that April 30th will be our last day? Will it be May 30th? Will it be June 30th? We just don't know. And at this point, because we do have a way for the public to actually give us their input, give us their comments, and here we are in a situation where we just have absolutely no idea when we'll be able to talk about this. I think that the spirit of what the Open Meetings Act calls for and our ability to give a development and answer really does, there's a balance there. It really does make sense that we move on. As you know, I wear a hat called Economic Development Director in addition to City Manager. And here we are. I mean, we're in a situation where there's the potential for $1 billion investment in the community at a time when we're talking about a possible recession or depression for that fact. So I think the timing of this particular project, whether it's thumbs up or thumbs down by the council, certainly is something that warrants some discussion. We do know that there are some land acquisition issues with the developer, which could be complicated by further delays. We also know that our Plan Commission has recommended approval of this project. So has our staff, me. And due to probably the regional importance, perhaps even national importance of this, it's actually gained the attention of Senator Durbin, Congresswoman Kelly, Congressman Kinzinger, and Congressman Rush, who have all weighed in and said this is a good thing. So I think in view of all this, in view of the circumstances, in view of the fact that the public process is maintained through the process that we've put together, I'd recommend that the council consider a special meeting, perhaps Monday of next week. Obviously, it would be a busy week if we're going to talk finances as well as North Point, but I think it gives a little more certainty to whether this is going to happen or not happen. So from the perspective of the city, if it's a project that's worth pursuing, there's some economic benefits, some job creation, and some other aspects that are favorable. It's not going to be here forever. Obviously, the land issues and some of these financial issues could overshadow where the developer is with regard to continuing to wait. So I would throw that out there as council has to make a decision as to what date this hearing would be rescheduled to.
Do you need a motion for that, or?
Well, in terms of the motion to continue the hearing, there would have to be a specific date.
Okay. One question, Steve. Next Monday, is this going to be an evening hearing? And then what would be the time frame for people to sign up to speak or to send a letter to the city? What what would that window be for
On
people?
on Mondays, when we've had pre-council, we've typically done 5:30 meetings, so certainly it could be a 5:30 meeting.
Okay.
Based on the rules that we published for this meeting, and really for all future meetings where there's going to be a hearing or some sort of sign-up, we indicate that it occurred 24 hours before the meeting, correct?
The deadline would be 24 hours before. We can get a special meeting notice out as early as tomorrow morning, and then we can get it on the website, the portal, to allow people to sign up to speak through the portal, and then they can email to publiccomment@joliet.gov up until 24 hours before a meeting.
Okay. Do you need, so the public hearing is up and opened.
The public hearing has been open, so we do
Need a motion to table?
to continue the public hearing to a specific date.
Monday's the 13th.
Monday?
So I'd look for somebody to make a motion.
I would make a motion to close the public hearing and table this until a special meeting to be held at 5:30 Monday, April 13th, 2020.
Yeah,
Continue the public hearing.
right, instead of closing the public hearing, we
Let's
need to
con-
continue.
Let
the
me amend my
public-
motion to say continue and not close the public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to continue Council Memo 192-20, pre-annexation agreement for 1,260 acres with Eastgate Logistics Park, Chicago LLC for Compass Business Park. Continue the item and the public hearing to a special meeting to be held on Monday, April 13th at 5:30 p.m. Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
You know, I'd like to see what would happen in the next 2 weeks as far as public gatherings, and I think a public hearing, people should have the chance to come down to City Hall, so I vote no.
Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-1. 7-1, I apologize.
And then one final question, at the conclusion of that public hearing, are we going to vote that night, or are we gonna have to reset that for the vote?
The special meeting could include a motion to approve.
Okay.
Moving on, under ordinances, Council Memo 194-20, an ordinance approving a variation of use to allow continuation of a 2-unit and single-family residence and a series of variations in an R3 zoning district located at 833 and 835 North Broadway Street.
I'll give you a little background on this. The property at 833 North Broadway consists of a single-family home along with a 2-unit structure. So in effect, you have 3 units on a single lot. Apparently, these 3 units existed on this property when it was purchased by the current owner back in 1987. And the whole non-compliance issue was discovered upon a rental inspection that occurred by the city back in late 2019. They came forward to try to make things right. It went before our zoning board of appeals, and our zoning board did vote 6-0, recommending the approval subject to 8 conditions that are all identified in the ordinance. So this has gone through ZBA with a recommendation for approval, and the owner's representative is available for the conference line if there are any questions.
Any questions?
Steve, currently, since 1987 or 89, it's been managed as if it's had the zoning.
Correct.
Is there a motion to approve Council Memo 194-20, which is an ordinance approving a variation of use to allow continuation of a 2-unit and single-family residence in a series of variations in an R3 zoning district located at 833 and 835 North Broadway Street?
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 195-20, which is an ordinance approving a variation of use and a series of variations to allow continuation of 2 single-family homes on one parcel located at 339 South Reed Street.
I'll give a little background on this. Very similar to the last item we just spoke about. In this case, the property was purchased in January of 2020 with both structures existing on the property. The owner basically acquired the property. He knew that the previous owner basically was not in compliance, so he felt that he would purchase the property, bring it forward, take care of the issues. This also went to our Zoning Board of Appeals. They recommended approval subject to 9 conditions that are identified in the ordinance. And I'll point out that the owner representative is available for conference line if there are questions.
I do have a question, Mayor.
Yes.
Since there's 2 properties on this one as well, is he going to be able to do all these conditions of approval within the 60 days they've allotted him?
Is this the person that was on the line, or is this the person we'll need to call, Krista?
I believe we would need to call him.
Okay, we could call him and.
Because I was reading through this earlier, and it just seems like quite a bit of, has to be done within the 60 days.
Why don't we move on, we'll come back to this. Will we get him on the phone?
Okay. So we'll move on to Council Memo 196-20, which is an ordinance authorizing the seating of Joliet's 2020 volume cap to the Assist Mortgage Credit Certificate Program. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Explanation.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Steve, explanation on this?
Oh, sure. Every year, we bring forward a volume cap ordinance. There's a program, I have to read this real fast. There are, under state statutes, home rule communities have what is called an allocation for tax-exempt private activity bonds. It's something that a town could do individually, or they could work with cooperatives and collectives to come up with programs to assist home buyers for purchase of new single-family homes. We don't do this program. We benefit from, in this case, the town of Normal, Illinois, who administers the program. And if any Joliet resident applies for this, they go through this program called the Assist Program. And they could get, I believe it's from 3 to 7% interest rates on home purchases. So what we do is we take what the state would allow us to have individually, and we put it into the pool. If we don't put it into this particular pool, I believe there's a 90-day period where it'll just go to the state of Illinois for their uses for similar programs. So every year we do the same thing.
Okay, it was motioned and seconded to approve Council Memo 196-20, which is an ordinance authorizing the seating of Joliet's 2020 volume cap to the Assist Mortgage Credit Certificate Program. Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Aye.
Okay. Mayor, I believe he's on the line.
All right, so we're back to 195-20.
Yeah, moving on to, okay. So Council Memo 195-20 is the ordinance approving a variation of use and a series of variations to allow continuation of 2 single-family homes on one parcel located at 339 South Reed Street.
And the owner of the property is on the phone?
He said he's on the line, so I believe.
Sir, this is Mayor Odekerk, can you hear me? Okay, he's not.
They're talking.
Want to move forward again? We'll come back.
We can move forward if you'd like under resolutions. Oh, okay.
Oh, he's not around?
You got it.
Okay.
Hello, sir, this is Mayor Odeker. Can you hear me?
Hello,
Hi, this is Mayor Odeker. How are you? Guess I should-
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Good. There's a question for you, Councilwoman.
I know you have these two
Yes, sir.
properties.
My name is Michael Korst, and I represent the petitioner, Adrian Roman.
Okay, so my question to you, this is Councilwoman Quillman asking, are the 60 days going to be enough time for this gentleman to get these properties up to code?
Well, quite honestly, this is the first that I'm hearing about the 60 days for all 9 of the conditions,
Well, excuse me, but it
with the
was
exception
stated,
of
hello, excuse
number
me?
5, the rear house shall establish.
Just keep talking when you start.
Okay, so according to the zoning board report, these things are supposed to be done within 60 days. And I don't know if you were there at the meeting or if
Yeah.
your client was at the meeting by himself, but that's what's stated here today, is 60 days, and that's my question. It's in writing.
Okay. There are 9 conditions that we are more than willing and able to comply with. The only one, again, that said 60 days was that we should establish the rear house with the new address within 60 days. And yes, we will comply with that. If we're being asked to comply with all 9 conditions within 60 days, it appears to me that we can meet those conditions in the 60 days. I don't see that as any issue.
According to the report, everything was to be done within 60 days.
Except for item 6. 6 months.
6.
6.
No, maybe 5.
And again, Councilwoman, I don't see that in the report, but again, I don't have any objection to doing that for my client, on behalf of my client. He is more than willing and able to comply with these within 60 days.
That was my first question. Is that enough time for him to comply with all the conditions that were put on him on both properties at the zoning board?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is enough time to fix all those violations.
In order to fix all the violations or to comply with the 9 recommendations of the administration, which are the conditions?
All the conditions with the violations. Is that enough time? If not, then we need to
Well,
look at it.
Mr. Roman,
Jim?
Mr. Roman is prepared to immediately upon approval, apply for all necessary permits to do any and all code modifications to bring everything up to code on both structures. Whether that would be completed within 60 days, I can't assure you of that, other than to assure you that he would in fact apply immediately for all permits and begin the work immediately. But especially with in light of what's going on currently, if the city, for instance, is not able to conduct inspections, or Mr. Roman's not able to get permits timely, then he won't be able to comply with a 60-day completion schedule. We can comply with the 9 conditions that are in staff's recommendation within that period of time, and we certainly will commit to immediately applying for all permits to begin and complete the work.
Well, again, usually there's a time limit put on this. Is Kendall around? Can we talk to Kendall?
I've texted him and.
He's right here.
There he is, he just came.
And I don't have any problem with the 60 days subject to some force majeure language that would provide that we would have additional time provided we're actively seeking the completion, or that the completion is not held up by any COVID-19 matter?
Understood. That was why I'm asking this question. I'm trying to help you here, but I want to try to get to the bottom of what's happening. So we now have our director, Kendall Jackson. He's going to speak on it because he was at the meeting.
Mayor and council, there are two lists. I think what the gentleman is referring to is the 9 conditions that are part of the council memo. There are some time limits within that list as well. For instance, number 5, the rear house shall be established
Yes.
an address within 60 days. And then number 6, the 2 tax parcels shall be combined into 1 tax parcel within 6 months of ordinance approval. So there is some leeway, I think, within these conditions that have their own time limit. And then there's a separate violation list that Neighborhood Services compiled when they did the investigation on the structures. And I believe, Councilwoman, that's what you're referring to.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Because we can't have these 2 homes sitting here for another 5-10 years and these violations aren't abated, and because there's no specific time limit. And that's what I want to know, if it's going to be done in the 60 days. If not, maybe we could extend that. But there has to be some type of time limit to get these properties not only with the correct addresses, but up to code.
So, gentlemen on the line, I think you've committed.
I have.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to just add that my client has no problem with committing to the 60 days, subject again to any type of force majeure event that could happen, and subject to if there is something that cannot be completed within 60 days, but he's diligently pursuing the completion during that 60 days, I would hope and expect that the city would work with him, given that he is diligently pursuing the completion. I understand your concern that you don't want the property sitting idle, and that is not Mr. Roman's intention whatsoever.
Understood. However, okay, we're all under financial crisis right now, and I'm sure he's experiencing the same thing. And that's my question. You know, I'm trying to help you here, and that's why I need some type of guidance here from not only our director from planning and zoning, but also to try to help your client so that we can get these things done. But I just don't feel right about changing all of this and then having it sit there for 1 or 2 years, and then he's unable to finish this and we have to sell it again. Those are my concerns, because this is what's been happening for quite some time in our city, and that's why we have a lot of absentee landlords with properties that are run down. This is my concern. I'm not saying that your client is, I just want a timeline when these violations are going to be finished. And if it has to be 90 days, then we could do 90 days. And then, so Kendall, for example, if we were to extend it to 90 days and nothing has been finished or done, then how would you handle that?
Well, if he's in violation of a timeline, then we bring it back and ask for a revocation of the approval.
And then how many chances do they get to redo?
Well, I think what we're hearing is that there's a commitment to take care of these violations within the 60 days. We can have our property maintenance coordinator work with the applicant to stay within that time range. If there is an issue that it has to be extended, then we can extend it to make sure that they have adequate time to complete the task. Again, if it gets to be an issue where it's going beyond a reasonable amount of time to correct the violations, we can always bring it back and ask for a revocation.
Yeah, that always takes a while to do that.
Okay, are we done with this?
Unfortunately.
Are we done with the questions?
Yes, okay, we're done
Thank
with
you,
it.
sir.
Thank you, just trying to help you out here.
And if I can just add, again, I have no problem whatsoever with having my client commit to the 60 days, provided that if there's something that can't be done due to a COVID-19 issue or something else out of his control, but the city sees him diligently pursuing the completion, I would hope and expect that the city would work with him. I understand your concern, and Mr. Roman is not intending to have this property sit idle.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kendall.
Okay, Council Memo 195-20 is an ordinance approving a variation of use and a series of variations to allow continuation of 2 single-family homes on one parcel located at 339 South Reed Street. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Coleman,
I will be watching this one, I will vote aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Motion carried. We already approved Council Memo 196-20, so moving on to Council Memo 197-20. It's an ordinance amending the 2020 annual budget for the City of Joliet to add additional funding for repairs at Fire Station 1 and repairs at 815 Campbell Street. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Is this, as we have discussed at length at the beginning of the meeting, is this something that we should be postponing? Is this something we need to consider? Each and every one of the items that will now be coming up, we get to the spending portion of our agenda.
Make a motion to table it. It's up to you.
I did want to do that, and just in case anybody else wanted to discuss it.
This is for roof repairs, Councilman. You know that, okay.
Well, like I think this, is there a cheaper option than replacing the entire roof?
Well, I didn't, I'm looking at Jim Trisner here, whose department is, they control the assets, physical assets. The finance director and I had a discussion about this. This was on sort of a tag list. And both he and I agree that when you're talking about a roof of a building, in effect, it's an asset that you need to get something done. And you'll note that this was on a list going back to 2017. Jim Trisna or Chief Blasky, is there anything that you would want to add as to the nature of the need to get this repair done?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I brought this forward with Michael Ulis. We've requested the repair or replacement of the roof of Station 1 in the 2017, 2018, 2019, and again in the 2020 budgets. They were pulled from all of them. We have put several repairs into it, tens of thousands, over the last few years. There are areas of the inside of the building that are damaged now because of it. The apparatus floor, you can see around where the drywall is, and my concern is that at some point it's going to come down.
Has there been any repairs to it in the last 3 years?
Yes, we have had repairs to it.
Okay, so you need a complete roof replacement.
This is the original roof from 1994, and this was outlined as a task to be done in the CDM Smith study from 2017. We've been band-aiding it along, but I don't know if we should continue to throw good money after bad at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I would be curious, why was it postponed those years? I mean, we're in the middle of COVID and on the front end of a deep recession or possible depression. You know, is it a dangerous situation? If it's dangerous, we have to address it. That's my question.
Your Honor, if I might.
It's critical,
Yes.
it's dangerous.
And I just wanted to add a comment to this. When a roof has been repaired that many or patched up that many times, and the equipment that we have in that building and for our first responder, I don't know what's the cost of the roof, but it is a needed piece. It is needed. If the roof has been kind of Band-Aid up, and then he has a real concern about the ceiling falling in or maybe damaging the apparatus that's in the building. So we are talking about a crucial piece here that that I think that it has been pulled off the agenda. I think we need to look at this and get it done. And I understand the financial piece, the situation that we're in, but we are talking about a valuable property there, and along with our first responders. So I just want to say I would be willing to look at this and vote yes for this.
Is there a motion?
Mayor?
Yes, Mike?
Steve, on the approval report, it's Marty Shanahan, yourself, and Jim Gadati recommended approval. Is that still your recommendation then?
It is. In effect, when you start talking about a roof, I think you're lessening the life of a building if you don't take care of that, particularly due to the fact that it's been a number of years. And I get the fact that, we have to really look at these things and find out what are the, we used to talk about wants and needs. Now we need to talk about needs. And I think this falls into that category.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes.
I would so move.
Can Chief come back in here? Chief, at 815 Campbell, how bad is that roof there?
Well, that building is not a Joliet Fire Department building. That was originally Station 6.
Right.
Pardon me.
Right.
That was Station 6. We moved in 2000 to the new building on Oneida.
Correct.
We held on to it for a few years, then it became property of the utilities, and now I believe it is property of the police department. I have no idea on that building because it is not ours.
Oh, okay.
My only focus is Station 1.
I thought maybe you still had diving equipment in there at one
No,
time.
we have nothing.
Nothing is there. Okay, so then my question should be directed to the chief of police.
He's out there.
I think Campbell Street is a rear door, not a.
No, it says roof. 47,000.
No, that's.
It says 815 Campbell in the amount.
Good evening,
What is this,
Mayor.
misprint, real quick?
Okay, my thing says approve the
Oh,
contract
right.
to repair the roof of 815 Campbell in the amount of $47,220 to Adler Roofing, and
Door for Campbell.
2 doors, one of the, wherever they are, for $3,200. So, my question, Chief,
Downtown.
is how bad is the Campbell Street station, and could that be patched, or does that have to be done right away?
It's a great question. I do not have the answer. It's Tri-County Auto Theft that we house now. That's in that building. I know Sergeant Grizzle's the one that got all the quotes and everything. I know Trisna might know more about it than I do. I know it's very bad. It's old. The building's really old. But I do not know the exact extent of how bad it is there. But I do know it's needed.
Can we possibly
It had been-
pull it and table this one?
Well, the memo is in, where's the itemization of Station 1 on the memo? We're discussing Station 1
They're
and
together.
Campbell.
Well, that's the recommendation for both.
Mayor.
Yes.
I believe Mike Ulitz is on the line and might be able to shed some light on it.
Okay, Mike,
Yep.
go ahead.
No, Mike Ulitz, I believe, has been on.
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. You hear me? No, you
Yes,
can't.
I can hear you. The question on Campbell Street.
Yes. Is it dire
The
need to be
Campbell
done?
Street roof is, yeah.
Let him talk, please.
It's currently leaking into, there are pieces of equipment that the city of Joliet owns in there. It's the auto theft task force that is in that building now. And there are Joliet pieces of equipment that are in that building that are under a possibility of damage due to the roof. It is an extremely old building.
In addition, the two doors that we'd like to replace they're very old doors. They're not very stable. We want to try to kind of shore it up a little bit better.
So my question is that an immediate need, or can it be patched up to get us through till we find out how our finances are?
Well, I believe this money is kind of patching up the roof right now. I can look into it more if you want to have me look into the roof repairs and go less than that. That's fine. I do think we need to get the doors though shored up. But I can definitely go a little bit less on the roof if we have to, if we can let it go a little bit longer. I do know that the structure is extremely old, and again, it was housed by several facilities over the years. But I can do whatever your will is.
Well, it's the council's will, so I was just looking at saving monies here. So do you want to wait on the roof to pull that one and let the doors go through, or?
Well, up till a couple months ago, it was basically an abandoned building. I don't know why we're sinking money into it right now. I think it should be tabled till we get our hands around. I mean, give it a month and see where we're at financially.
Well, and Mayor, as I was trying to point out, the recommendation, the memo, doesn't list the $200,000 for Station 1.
Right. Which is
Not even on the memo.
It says 150.
Well, in the other documentation, there's a $200,000 and 15, $200,000 and 15. Let me bring it back up.
200,517.
Thank you. 200,517. It's not even in the memo.
I think the two of them are combined comes in
Oh.
total.
No. Councilwoman, look at the legislative text. Legislative text is basically the recommendation, right? The summary. They list just two items, one for $47,220, one for $3,297. Both for 815 Campbell. That's what confused me when you referred to it.
Okay.
Nothing in the memo refers to the over 200,000 that they're asking for. Which is, if you look at the ordinance itself, it tells you it's $200,517. So we've got three items we're looking at here for over a quarter million.
Is Mike Hewlett still online?
Steve, I could talk about that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
The $200,000 is the total for the roof at the fire station, which is about approximately $150,000, and then you've got the $47,000 for the 815 Campbell and the $3,200 for the doors. That equals $200,517.
Thank you, Mike Hewlett. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was just going to bring that, Mike covered. That was what I was going to just tell you folks.
All right, any other questions or comments?
So are you going to lump the whole thing together, or are we going to pull it and hold off? That was my question.
It's up to you.
It's the council.
We'll make a motion then.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to go with Station 1 in the amount of $150, not to exceed that, and put the other two items on hold, the $47,220, and unless the council wants to do the doors, which I guess to lock the building up. But is the building still empty, Jim?
No, as far as I know, there's, like they said, there's the city equipment in there, potentially vehicles and things, right, Al?
And the officers are,
Okay.
they're working on it.
So that'd be my motion, just to hold off on that one.
What was your motion? I'm sorry, are you tabling it?
No.
No, not the whole thing. We're still.
Moving forward on Station 1 and not on Campbell Street is the motion.
Well, can I ask one question
Yes.
before we? I believe for the chief, now that I know that there are people in that building too. Chief, which would be, to your decision, which would be best right now? To secure the building with the garage doors? Is that a more needed thing and we kind of wait for the roof, or?
You know, I don't know the condition like Mike Eulis does on those two separate items, so it might be a better question for him.
All right, so you have equipment in there and you have personnel in there as well?
Tri-county, so there's officers from 3 different counties that work out of that building.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, maybe that it was a question for Mike then. Mike, you still on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Mike, you've seen the condition of the building. With the, say if we put the doors on there for security purposes, which do you think would be the most immediate? The doors, since you do have people working in there, or the roof itself?
Not anymore.
Let me, Betty, I think for sure we should do the doors. The doors that are in there now are old, you know, decrepit wooden doors that people could probably unsecure fairly easily. I think we need to do those immediately. With the roof, I suppose I can try to get a different guy up there to just look at the individual areas that are leaking and we do a patchwork on it.
Okay.
I can go that route.
Okay, Mike, thanks a lot.
Mike, can you do the same thing on Station 1's roof? Find a
You're
way,
welcome.
a delay. If we can delay it. Not that we don't want to, I don't want to do it, but every penny that we vote on, even the things that were already in the budget, this is an amendment, probably at least 35% of it's not going to be funded. We're deficit spending as we sit here right now. And I don't know how deep the deficit's going to be, nobody does. We went through that earlier in the meeting. Can you see if there's a temporary fix that can be done with Station 1 to protect any personnel or equipment?
Okay, so Krista?
That was a question, Mike.
Is that, I'm sorry, was that for Mike Ulitz?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike Ulitz.
Now you don't have to come back.
Okay,
So
Krista?
that was a question on whether we can do some patchwork on the Fire Station 1.
Yes.
I don't know if there's, to be honest with you, I don't know if there's more patchwork to be done. I think we probably need to go with that one. Like we said, it's been it was a critical need. A couple of years ago, we haven't been able to obtain the funding, and we're just looking, we feel it's a critical need at this point to get the funding for the Station 1 roof. I know I know the chief has done patchwork work over the last couple of years. I don't know if there's any more that he could do.
And I have one more question. Where's the estimate for the roof repairs currently?
It's here 150.
Right, but it
We have an
doesn't,
estimate not to exceed 150,000. It should be, I don't have the physical estimate in front of me. I know Adler Roofing was out there just recently.
Mike, that was why I asked, because I didn't see what company was the low bidder. That was my question.
It's to obtain quotes.
Oh, to obtain quotes?
Correct.
Not to exceed.
All right, Krista, I will rescind my motion to table. And can we just look at getting the quotes first and then vote on whether we want to do it or not? Everybody in agreement with that one?
Is that a motion?
So are you making a motion to remove the item and then bring it back after we receive the quotes on,
Right.
on all items on it? So the
Correct.
motion would be to remove the item.
Correct.
Is there a second?
So motion to remove Council Memo 197-20. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to remove Council Memo 197-20, which is an ordinance amending the 2020 annual budget for the City of Joliet to add additional funding for repairs at Fire Station 1 and repairs at 815 Campbell Street. Councilman Turk?
One question, this table for 2 weeks?
Yes.
Well, if we're removing it and then bringing it, we can bring it back if it's ready in 2 weeks with the quotes, but this way it's not held to the 2 weeks from removing it. The motion was to remove it at this time.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 197-20 was removed from the agenda. Moving on, under resolutions, Council Memo 199-20, a resolution appropriating funds for Phase 2 engineering services for the Garnsey Avenue over Spring Creek Improvement Project. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
Mayor, question?
Yes.
The 11,500 coming out of MFT funds, do we already have that? Or is that gonna be coming out of future funds in the next week or 4 weeks or 8 weeks?
Need Jim Guidotti for that?
We already have that amount in fund balance in the motor vehicle tax fund.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
It's been motioned to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve Council Memo 199-20, which is a resolution appropriating funds for Phase 2 engineering services for the Garnsey Avenue over Spring Creek Improvement Project. Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 200-20, which is a resolution approving submission of a build grant application for the I-55 at Illinois Route 59 Access Project. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 201-20, a resolution appropriating motor fuel tax funds for 2020 roadway resurfacing contract A. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
Question, Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Guidotti?
Same question?
Yes.
Let me put that in there.
I'll tell you what.
Just leave him in the room.
Yeah, I'll step out. I'll step out for these.
On 20120, Jim, do we have those funds in hand already, or is that on
Yes.
future funds?
Yes, all the MFT projects on tonight's agenda, we have about $8 million right now in the MFT fund.
Okay.
So we have enough fund balance to cover those projects. Again, as we mentioned, any future projects, we will have to take a very hard look at.
Thank you. And I just would like to make clear for the citizens that are listening, that no, we cannot cancel this project and use MFT motor fuel tax for something else. It has to be done for roads only, so. With that, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve Council Memo 201-20, which is a resolution appropriating motor fuel tax funds for the 2020 roadway resurfacing contract A. Councilman Hug,
Aye?
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 202-20, resolution accepting Illinois Environmental Protection Agency low-interest loan L175464 for the 2020 sanitary sewer rehabilitation program. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second?
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
I guess it's a necessary evil. I vote aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Councilwoman Coleman, I can assure you that should things get into a depression and get really sketchy in the next couple of years, the IEPA won't repossess our sewer pipes. It'll be okay. So if we miss a payment, so aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 203-20, which is a resolution accepting Illinois Environmental Protection Agency low interest loan L175430 for the 2020 water main rehabilitation project. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 204-20 is a resolution finding that a local state of emergency continues and formally adopting directives which are imminently necessary for the protection of public health, safety, and welfare.
I'll give a little background on this. As everyone recalls, when the governor started to issue executive orders regarding COVID, Mayor Odekirk basically followed suit and did the local state of emergency. Under state statutes, there are certain powers that the mayor is able to implement during a state of emergency, and there have been 2 issued thus far. When a mayor issues a state of emergency, it stays in effect until the adjournment of the first council meeting that preceded this state of emergency. So in effect, that would be at the end of today's meeting. What this resolution does is it extends this particular state of emergency out till one of the following occurs. Either the governor's directives expire or this council passes a resolution. So it allows the state of emergency to continue basically, so we're not doing this at every single council meeting. To give you some of the summary items that are within this state of emergency, it allows the remote participation by council and various commissions so that people can conduct business as we're doing now without some of the old rules. Number 2, it allows public participation opportunities via the written or call-in opportunities that we've seen tonight. It cancels all pre-council meetings and non-essential committee meetings and commission meetings at the city. It closes City Hall to the public. It waives late fees on past due accounts. It imposes a moratorium on water shutoffs. And lastly, for bills that are paid via credit cards, it creates a credit so that people aren't paying a credit card fee for that particular transaction. So once again, if this is approved, it would allow this state of emergency to continue either until the governor's directives expire or the council chooses to rescind them.
Is there a motion to approve Council Memo 204-20?
So moved.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Steve, on the award of contracts, should we do these individually? I think they're gonna be vetted, would be my guess. Okay.
Okay. So first is Council Memo 206-20, award a contract for the 2020 roadway signs material purchase order number 1.
Is this critical? Can we delay this for 2 weeks or a month, or however long it takes us to get a handle on the unknown?
Jim Trisnick, you come in, maybe I'll ask the question opposite. Is there anything that can't be delayed 2 months or 2 weeks on this list?
Well, this is $32,000 coming out of our operating budget. This is for stop signs, which are critical. Any roads, we really don't have a lot of excess. We try to have a few on, we always try to make sure we have some on hand, but these are pretty critical. I mean, you can't not have a stop sign. Even for that matter, street name signs. People are driving to drive around, you really need to know where you're going. We got a good price, as you notice on there. It was under our estimate, about 7% below the estimate. Again, we're talking $32,000. I think it's pretty important to do these, get these signs. I really do.
How many stop signs do you have in stock now?
I don't know offhand. I'd have to check. I mean, if you want, I can check it out and you can take it, delay it 2 weeks. But I don't, I'm sure our vendor would hold his prices that long if you'd like. I could do that.
I won't vote, but personally, I would prefer to get a handle on the finances before we spend some of this money. Is there anything on this list that cannot wait 2 weeks, that we need to have an answer tonight?
As far as my end for the award of contracts now? Maybe?
Yes.
Okay. We can definitely hold off on the Youngs Avenue. As far as the vehicles and the trailers, I mean, I'm sure we can hold off on those. There was the 4 pickup trucks for the planning department, and we had 5 trailers of $50,000 for our street department. Those could be held off. Our resurfacing contract, motor fuel tax, we can't hold off on that. We've got a road that's the binder and surface course for Knoll and Retta Court, a couple streets over by Doris Avenue that it's currently, those roads are under construction. We've got to get that awarded. And again, it's MFT money.
What number is that?
The motor fuel, the resurfacing contract,
214.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you, okay.
Yeah, that's from my end. I don't know about Allison, maybe you want to talk about her?
Sure.
Is she going to come in here?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I had reviewed all of our contracts that were going to be on this agenda. So at this point, I believe all of the ones that are on this agenda are essential and would need to be approved. The 4th Avenue water main project, that is utilizing CDBG funding, so that funding can only be utilized for this type of work. And that money was received by the city in October, so that is grant funding. The water system rehabilitation program, this is part of our loan program, so we need to proceed with that schedule so that we can still achieve that funding that we have set aside for that. The Brandon Road water main repair project, that is currently leaking, so it's an emergency that does need to be repaired and cannot be postponed. The water metering equipment, again, I mean, we need to have water meters in stock so that if there is a situation where someone needs a water meter replaced, that we can replace that water meter.
Mayor? Yes. Allison, how many do you have in stock now?
I don't know that answer.
So we probably should, like we did with the signs, have you go through and get the actual numbers and bring this back in the couple of days.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion. It's just my suggestion to the other members of the council. But again, we got to clamp down, and we need the facts. I mean, if Jim comes back and says we got 13 signs left in the city of 152,000 people, then we're going to have to bite the bullet and get the minimum amount we need. Same thing with an item like this. Every penny's going to count with the unknown.
Okay. Do you want me to review the payments and change orders as well?
Yeah, as long as you're here, sure.
Okay. The membership dues to the Lower Des Plaines Watershed Group, that is a regulatory requirement that we be a member of that group. So that is something that's written into our permit. So we cannot choose not to participate in that group or pay the membership fees. And then the Fairmont Corrosion Control Study, that's funding that would be coming from the Will County Community Development Block Grants. And again, there's deadlines associated with that due to regulatory concerns.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, did I miss 208 and 209? Al, did I miss those two in the award?
208, she said yes. 209, we haven't discussed.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over 209. So yes, 208, I will go back and, as Councilman Hug requested, 208 I did discuss. That was the
I'm sorry. Yeah,
professional services agreement for
209.
water system design. And then the lawn mowing, with the grass, the way it's growing already, the number of complaints we would receive if we didn't move forward with the lawn mowing contract within, immediately, I think would be extreme.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, At this time, I'd like to make, if this is, I'm sure it's allowed, I would make a motion to table 20620, 21220, 21320, and 21520 for at least 2 weeks, and then we can revisit it.
You say 206, 212?
213 and 215.
And I believe 211,
Structural improvement?
Yes, they could be tabled.
Okay,
211
so, and
Young's
then,
Avenue, yes, sir.
add 211 to that list as well, so it should read 206, 212,
Not
206,
220,
211.
that's a separate category.
Which one?
You can do it all together?
no, we can do them separately, but can you repeat the numbers? I'm sorry, I just
Yeah,
want to make sure.
206, 211, 212, 213, 215.
Okay. I believe Jim Trisna had,
Yeah, I would just want to add, for as far as change orders for my end, the only change order I had on there was for the Gardensea Avenue Bridge over Spring Creek, which we already approved the MFT money for, and it's obviously to try to finish off the design. Again, we got federal money in there, 80% feds and 20% local, so that's all I had, and that should be approved, is my point.
Mayor, one more question based on this. I don't know if Allison, probably Jim Gaddotti again, he's going to be the star tonight. I'm hoping that what I assume is going to be true. Have we seen a drastic drop in revenues for the enterprise fund for the water fund? I'd like to know that too. Because there's separate issues between the general operating fund and the enterprise fund known as the water and sewer fund. And I don't think we have, but I'm curious if they have any handle on that preliminarily.
The feedback I got was we're expecting payments to come in delayed because we're waiving late fees, but ultimately that's money owed. So that should not drop.
Okay.
Theoretically.
All right, thank you.
Or significantly drop.
so Councilman Hogg, the motion was to table. Would, just to make sure that they're all coming back at the same time, can we make a motion to remove it and then bring it back when they're ready? So if in case not all of them are ready for the next meeting?
Sure. Let me amend my motion to say that Councilmember 206, 20, 211, 20, 212, 20, 213, 20, 215, 20. My motion is to remove them and have them be brought back when each of those, when they can provide the information we need.
Okay, fantastic. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to remove council memos, and I'm going to read them by title as well. Council memo 206-20, award a contract for the 2020 roadway signs material purchase order number 1. Council memo 211-20, award a contract for the Youngs Avenue, Cass Street South End Storm Sewer Improvement Project 2020. Move council memo 212-20, approve the purchase of 4 F-150 pickup trucks for the planning department. Remove council memo 213-20, purchase 5 trailers. Remove council memo 215-20, purchase water metering equipment, to be brought back when we have additional information. Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hugg.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Aye.
Motion carried. So council memos 206, 211, 212, 213, and 215-20 were removed from the agenda. Would you be comfortable if we voted on the remaining ones? It's all one vote as we've done in the past? Okay. So under award of contracts, those that remain are council memo 207-20, award a contract for the 4th Avenue Water Main Improvement Project, CDBG. Council memo 208-20, approve a professional services agreement for the 2021 Water System Rehabilitation Program. Council memo 209-20, award a contract for the 2020-2022 Lawn Mowing Services Program Utilities. Council memo 210-20, award a contract for the 24101 Brandon Road Water Main Repair Project. And Council memo 214-20, award a contract for the 2020 Roadway Resurfacing Contract A. Is there a motion to approve the council memos that I just mentioned?
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris, Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Motion carried. So for amendments, change orders, and payments,
Mayor, Council, you'll be happy to know, I don't need to vet these individually. My philosophy is simple. These are jobs that have already begun and are ending. This is money owed to private contractors. Unlike some public entities that like to put the burden of debt on the vendors, I don't approve of that. We need to honor these.
okay. So Council Memo 217-20, approved change order number 1 and payment estimate number 7 and final for the South Rayner Avenue Water Main Improvement Project. Council Memo 218-20, approved change order number 1 and payment estimate number 7 and final for the Garnsey Park Phase 1A Water Main Improvement Project. Council Memo 219-20, approve amendment number 1 for the Phase 2 engineering services for the Garnsey Avenue over Spring Creek Improvement Project. Council Memo 220-20, approve payment of the 2020 membership dues for the Lower Des Plaines Watershed Group. And Council Memo 221-20, approve amendment number 2 to the professional services agreement for the Fairmont Corrosion Control Study. Is there a motion to approve Council Memos 217-20 through 221-20?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris, Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is the city manager's report.
I have nothing. I was going to talk about the finances, but we already covered that at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, new business, not for final action or recommendation.
Don, you want to start? Any new business?
I have nothing, Mayor.
Mike?
Nothing.
Eddie?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Jim?
Nope.
Ed?
Nope.
Terry?
No, sir.
Murray?
No.
Sherry? I have nothing either.
Next is public comments. We did receive an email after the deadline. We will forward it we will forward the email to you to review for the next meeting. Mayor and council comments.
Don, any comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to remind the public to be safe and help their neighbors.
Mike?
Just want to thank the entire staff for pulling everything together and during this crisis, and wish everybody good luck.
Again, I'd like to tag on to that. I'd love to thank the staff for all the work that they've been putting in and getting us situated to be able to continue business. The other thing is that to my fellow residents of this city, we will get through this. This too shall pass. And so let us be very cognizant about our neighbors and making sure that we are following the guidelines and everybody will be safe. So, God bless.
Thank you.
First of all, I would also echo those comments with the staff and all the hard work they've been putting in. And second of all the essential workers, first responders, medical personnel, and volunteers that have stepped up during this COVID-19 crisis. Again, I can't stress enough, wash your hands, keep your social distancing, wear your mask, but don't touch your face. Once you put your mask on, leave it on, get it home, take it off, wash your hands. They're even saying now at the CDC is you should take off your shoes. You shouldn't even wear your shoes in the house after you've been out to the grocery store. And one more thing, I will say a lot of the stores have really stepped up for seniors, giving them special hours. And today, I was at several stores, but I have to hand it to Food for Less today. I'm gonna give them a little kudos. Their staff has been working 24/7, they have totally disinfected the place. It looks like a brand-new grocery store. Their shelves were stocked, very neat. And, you know, I know the other stores are trying to keep up as well, but I just, sometimes, Food for Less, people don't think to go there, but it's really been a very nice place to shop lately. And also, again, to kind of piggyback on Councilman Ms. Gavin, check on your neighbors if you even haven't heard from them. Knock on the door, see how they're doing, because some people just don't want to ask for help, but they're going to need it. So just volunteer your services. Other than that, be well, stay safe, and happy Easter to all.
Pat?
I'd like to thank our typical first responders, the police, fire, for the great job they've been doing and the stress I'm sure that they're working under, and taking it to the next group of first responders, as we've all seen ads for the new heroes out there, the hospital staff, nurses, doctors, and everybody involved in it. And then our staff here, who have already done a lot of work, and I realize they're going to be tasked with doing much more. And good luck, and thank you in advance for everything you've done.
Terry?
Yeah, Mayor, just like to thank everyone, especially our city staff, fire, police, public works, utilities, and our staff here at City Hall, and just help and pray that everyone stay safe.
Yeah, I would just like to recognize and compliment everyone who's going out in these uncharted times to keep things moving along, at least at a snail's pace, starting right up there at top, as the councilman alluded to our medical personnel, our first responders, but city staff, my fellow council members, somebody's taking away your garbage, someone's fixing your furnace or air conditioner, coming out, taking whatever risk is involved. There's a lot of people, a lot of moving parts that keep society limping along. And I would encourage people, this is a time for love. Avoid those, especially on social media fueled by hatred. Avoid conspiracy theories, rumors, innuendos. It's very confusing. You want to know what the CDC is saying? Go to the CDC website. Don't read somebody's post that said, I heard from my uncle's friend who went to prison with his cousin that the CDC said something. Really, concentrate on your families, concentrate helping your neighbors, and specifically concentrate on those that are in need, whether they be elderly, disabled, or a single mom with a lot of children. Try to help them as much as you can, and I will simply say to all the citizens, thank you for what you've done so far.
I'll echo everything that everyone said. I couldn't, forget. Every one of them was a perfect comment for all of our fire staff, our police. They're putting themselves out there, our medical personnel. Let's not forget, every time we have to go to the grocery store, those grocery people are putting themselves out there and their families, the truck drivers who are bringing it in. And let's not forget our funeral directors, and I'm serious when I say that, Terry. You guys are putting yourselves out there. You're getting the worst of it. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, I also will echo the comments. It was well said by everybody. Just also want to wish everyone a happy Easter and elaborate on one thing as far as local businesses. Anything we could do to support our small businesses or local businesses. I know the city of Joliet has on our webpage, we have a list of local restaurants and eateries that are open. I know WJOL has the same. The Joliet Patch has a local business online form. Any local business that signs up in that will be represented in the patch. So again, to any of our residents through this difficult time, if you could support our local businesses, it's very much appreciated. So thank you to everyone. Thanks for the council for coming tonight.
That I did receive a request for closed session. Is there a motion to go into?
Can I have a question first?
Yes.
So we have a meeting next Monday at 5:30. Do we have a meeting Tuesday?
We should set that. Do we need to set tonight for the budget meeting?
Did I hear Wednesday or was it Tuesday?
Well, just Tuesday or Wednesday was thrown out
Almost
there.
2 days next
Kind
week.
of thrown out there.
We could do a phone poll tomorrow to see who's available each of those 2 days.
I think we all
That's
are.
good.
Yeah, we'll make ourselves available.
That's fine.
I would have to cook that night.
Going out to the restaurant and get a carry-out.
Is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition or conveyance pending or threatened litigation, after which the meeting will be adjourned?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon. Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Mayor, I need you to make a
So they're going to
declaration.
remain on the conference call. We're going to actually hold closed session in here, but I need to have the mics all turned off.